the spinning circle that means we wait and we go live. That's not bad, Bloom. I texted you I needed coffee about half an hour ago and
Yeah, we've got different things to talk about,
worked it out, right? Worked it out, baby. Work it out.
It's always clear the pipes, clear the brain. This is important. This is sacred. The AFC East.
Yes, it is. And it's got some players. All right, so let's do this thing. And we're actually going with these guys. That guy right there. Look at that guy. Remember sitting at the library eating lunch with Josh Allen. There you go. That's the name of a bar in Laramie. Anyway. All right. 3, 2, 1. Josh Allen played like an MVP for the league and for your fantasy team last year. So what does he do for an encore this year, Bloom?
Hopefully more of the same, right? Buffalo is setting the scene here, kind of like the Tampa Bay of the East, right? Like, what has really changed significantly about this team from last year? Nothing that I can figure out. They're bringing it back, and hopefully this time around they'll be prepared for the AFC Championship game. And it wasn't like Josh Allen played his best football of the season in the playoffs, right?
Right.
He had some ups and downs against the Colts. He made a few plays against the Ravens. The defense probably owns that win. And then he shrunk against Kansas City. The whole team shrunk. So let's run it back. And see, this just comes back to why does it matter so much to win a Lombardi trophy? Well, it's so hard just to even make it to the Super Bowl. So if you actually ever hoist that trophy in your career, it is a moment, like a out-of-body experience. So did Allen peak last year? I mean, when you look at the playoffs, he didn't. From a fantasy standpoint, maybe he didn't. There was a little rough stretch. Remember, there was that rainy game they played like on a Wednesday or Tuesday or something. There was a little bit of a rough stretch where we thought, is Allen regressing? And unlike, say, Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes, these are the quarterbacks that you're looking at taking around the time that Josh Allen is going off the board. I think that with the running ability of Murray and Jackson, that gives you a little more security. Allen's a runner, but he's not a runner like Murray and Jackson. He's not going to have a 100-yard game as a runner. And Patrick Mahomes, we don't talk about Patrick Mahomes having rough stretches. Maybe a rough game, a rough half, a rough drive, but not a rough stretch of games. So I think from a fantasy standpoint, you're not really looking at Allen as your plan A at quarterback. I think you take Mahomes a little earlier, or you take Murray around the same time, or you take Lamar Jackson a little later, or maybe even Russell Wilson. We'll get to that in the NFC West episode. But at the same time, we do look at this offense, Brian Daboll. We do look at this quarterback as being able to support the values of the receiver. So that's what's different, right? Like when we were talking Bills at this time last year, Cease, we weren't looking at them as a robust pass offense.
No, it was Josh Allen's running all the time. How does he change as a passer? And then Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis helped him change.
Right. So it's going to be exciting. Not exciting for us Steelers fans in the season opener, but you get it, folks. It's an exciting team to watch. Maybe Allen peaked as a passer as far as his stretches of excellence and avoiding the inconsistency. Maybe he takes it to a new level again. And, we always love to see that. Certainly we root for the Bills, the long-suffering Bills fans, to have things to cheer about.
I actually think, Bloom, when you talk about that playoff collapse, do you know what it was, in my opinion? Gabriel Davis was hurt.
Yeah.
Gabriel Davis came through with some big plays.
Right.
I know we're kind of skipping over running backs, but
there's
a
reason
think
for
that
that.
really impacted Allen because he needed that guy, that security blanket, and Davis was making sideline catches. He was doing everything for him. And then when he was banged up, that guy wasn't there. You can only go to, and by the way, banged up Cole Beasley, who we'll get to as well. Those receivers got a little bit banged up and it took away Allen's superpowers.
It did. Although, hey, they've got a guy with some superpowers behind him on the bench now.
That they do. The superpower of Mitchell Trubisky. I don't know. Jake Fromm there as well. Hey, Davis Webb's still kicking in the league. So really, even from a dynasty standpoint, Jake Fromm's not interesting to me. That's one of those great college quarterbacks. He's Eric Zaire or whatever. It's another Georgia quarterback where you're like, I was great in college, and then he doesn't do anything in the pros. So really for me, Bloom, preseason watch list, nah, I don't really need to see Mitchell Trubisky or Jake Fromm or any of these guys.
No, I mean, maybe Trubisky is an upgrade from Matt Barkley. At the very least, Trubisky can do an impression of Josh Allen early career where, yeah, he pulls it down and runs too much. You just want to put that directive in his head. Just don't turn the ball over. So that's a little bit of an upgrade. There might be a few teams, do the Colts wish they had Mitchell Trubisky right now? I don't know. But the Bills at least got somebody who knows his way around an NFL field.
Let's talk about guys that know their way around the backfield. And it's Devin Singletary and it's Zach Moss. And I think we're kind of settled, Bloom. Like you've seen this now for a while with these two, and it's like, okay, they prefer Moss. And I like Singletary. I know there's certain limitations to his game, but I've always appreciated his tackle breaking, his ability to run through contact. That was something that was evident even dating back to his college days. They don't trust him. So when both of these guys are healthy, we know that Moss is going to get that majority. There still will be a split, and Singletary will get some work. But this isn't any sort of debate, right? This isn't any sort of battle even anymore. To me, Bloom, it's like we've settled on the position and they're going to use both. And sorry, fantasy GMs, we don't care about your feelings.
And maybe all three. So that's the thing. This could be a three-headed backfield. We want to find value here. See, there's a fantasy truism, right? Like every player is a value at a certain point in the draft. Well, maybe not Buffalo running backs. Maybe not. If there is a value, it may be Zach Moss. If you want to do the glass half full take on Zach Moss, it's that he got hurt last year and he never really got on track. I think he showed a better burst than I expected. He's good in the passing game. He's a good pass blocker. He can be a 3-down back. He can lead this backfield in touches, snaps, and rushing touchdowns. Now, how many rushing touchdowns? With Josh Allen there, it's kind of like the Cam Newton problem, but enough that if you take Moss in the 9th, 10th, 11th round and you take him for a flex play, for a matchup running back 2, for an emergency running back, it could work out. But the problem is Devin Singletary is still solid. Not the player we saw at the end of his rookie year thinking, oh, is he going to ascend and become a lead back? No, I don't really know what happened last year. He didn't look like he was running with the same edge and playing with the same edge as he had. But that being said, when Moss was out, Singletary was a solid play 2 out of 3 weeks. So you still see Singletary in the category of injury upside backs. If Zach Moss goes down, Singletary gets a bump in value. Well, no, of course, if Singletary gets hurt, Moss would get that too. So there's a path to value for Moss. But enter Matt Breida, who is having a good camp. And what do we know about Matt Breida? In practice, in a combine kind of setting, he's going to really impress, right? Quickness, burst. He's going, so if you watch Zach Moss and Devin Singletary and Matt Breida run the same play one after another, you're going to say, give me Breida.
Give me the guy with the juice.
Yeah. So can he stay healthy? It's the same thing as always. Can he stay healthy? If he can stay healthy, or the Bills do a good job managing his touches, managing his reps so that he doesn't get worn out. This is like Raheem Mostert all over again with the 49ers are going through. You have somebody who adds value to his touches. You have somebody who can rejuvenate this running game. Because in the background seats here, we have to say, the Buffalo is really testing, like, do you need to have a credible running game? Even Kansas City can look at them and say, like, we can run the ball better than they can. You have to have a credible running game. And I do think, not like the Steelers, where like all of the energy from the offseason is going to go towards the running game, but I do think the Bills want to run the ball better than they did last year. So Matt Breida could be part of that. Zach Moss staying healthy could be part of that. But in the end, for fantasy, probably we won't want to have any of these backs, and we don't want to invest in this backfield.
In the end, it becomes a complicated and convoluted mess. So there you have it. And you know what I call Matt Breida, Bloom? Besides being able to pronounce a simple name like Breida, I call him an if back. If. It's always if. I don't want an if back.
No.
I want a producing back, a production back, the if back. Like this isn't roulette, baby. Like, come on. This is fantasy football. Taiwan Jones, we're just playing running back again. Antonio Williams, always an interesting name. So preseason watch lists like him, Christian Wade. I'll be tuning in, maybe not necessarily overly excited, but hey, I'll have the radar up, so to speak.
Yeah, Taiwan Jones maybe can make it on special teams prowess. They carry 4 running backs. If Breida gets dinged in camp and they lose faith in him, Antonio Williams, one of those week 17 studs. So we'll watch that. But the real marquee players here are in the passing game.
The real marquee players. You want to be a marquee player in your fantasy league. Some segues just write themselves,
Whew.
Bloom. Be sure to download the Football Guys mobile app today if you haven't already. It can be used on all smartphones and gives you all of the same tools that you'd find on our website, footballguys.com. Our Draft Dominator app will make sure that you have an edge above your teammates by customizing the advice specific to your team. Download today so Football Guys can help you win. Can help you dominate. The originators of Dominate Your League. I know that's become something that everybody says, dominate your league, but it was Football Guys that did it first, and we do it best. Let's move on to the wide receivers. There's Stephon Diggs. Worthy of his own segment, Bloom, just because he's so damn good. Like, if we could have just a moment, a song, a chant, whatever, to praise Stephon Diggs for everything that he is, everything that he's done for Josh Allen. I mean, just the connection that they've made, how Diggs... We see this so many times with receivers, right? I'm unhappy. I'm not getting my money. I'm not getting the ball enough, whatever. And then they go somewhere else and, you know, that they don't, Peerless Price, whoever, you know what I mean? Like, they just don't perform the way that you maybe thought they would. Stephon Diggs was that guy that's like, give me the rock. And they gave it to him and it's worked out so very well. So I don't even want to talk about the rest of the guys. Let's just take a moment to enjoy and really celebrate Stephon Diggs.
I'll celebrate him because he won a championship for me and a lot of other people, an improbable championship. I think it was down 38 or 39 points going into that Monday night game. My wife still says it's the fastest she's ever seen me move. Stephon Diggs, is there a better example of a win-win trade than basically Stephon Diggs for Justin Jefferson? I don't think so. I don't think there ever will be. No. I mean, both franchises are elated with what they have. And you're looking at Stephon Diggs in your draft after Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill go off the board. So, you know, I've got a draft where I just drew a PPR draft. I just drew the number 12 spot. And if I decide to go wide receiver, running back, or wide receiver, Diggs is absolutely going to be, maybe it'll be Diggs and Jefferson. So there's a little spoiler alert if you're in that Apex draft with me. What can you say? He got better. He blew up the narrative about receivers on new teams. Now, maybe this was a convergence, a perfect storm of Josh Allen, of Brian Dable, of everything coming together in this pass offense, and obviously Diggs being part of that story. So maybe he's truly changing that narrative. He's just that exception or that outlier. There's no reason to think that he won't continue doing that. I was looking at it yesterday, Cecil. I think it was something like from between weeks 9 and 16, 6 out of 7 games, he had 9 or 10 catches, which is just, you know, I mean, that's unreal consistency. So I think that there is a gap. If you look at draft rankings, I mean, I love Justin Jefferson. I love A.J. Brown. I would probably be taking them over DeAndre Hopkins. A lot of people have DeAndre Hopkins as the next guy. I would have a pretty big gap between Diggs and Hopkins, like a half a round or more, just to show how much we like Stephon Diggs. We're happy for him. And even though, look it up, the Vikings said they would not want him to date their sisters.
Okay. All right. How about dating Emmanuel Sanders? There's a Paxton Lynch joke in there somewhere, but I'll save that. That's too inside. But Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley there now as those 2 and 3. Beasley's going to do his thing. Beasley is what he's going to be. Like there's right. That. Emmanuel Sanders comes into the conversation, and he's still really good. He's still really precise. He'll still really fight. Like, I love Gabriel Davis, but sorry, Gabriel. Like, he's just going to do E. And now he does it in Buffalo. Got the message from E. Like, he is loving Josh Allen. Like, and not just the team-friendly, like, I'm going to say nice things about my quarterback. Like, knowing Emmanuel the way that I know E, he's not going to say that if he doesn't like you. Maybe like Paxton, I don't know, but like it's always a Broncos show, Bloom. But Emmanuel's excited, rejuvenated, ready to go, and as long as he's healthy, I mean, this is an asset for the Bills. How much of an asset would it be for your fantasy teams, though?
We can handle all 3 of these guys together and basically say, be open to taking a Bills receiver in the second half of your draft. We saw last year. I think Allen can support 3 fantasy relevant wide receivers. And one will probably be Beasley, although remember, a lot of Beasley's upside came with John Brown out. So you heard me say I'd rather take Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson at ADP than Allen. If you're saying, no, I'm going to take Josh Allen, your story would be that, well, Emmanuel Sanders will stay healthier than John Brown. and Gabriel Davis will be 1 year better. He's not a rookie without an offseason coming in a COVID year with no OTAs and things like that. So this can be a better pass offense than it was last year on that alone. And you have Beasley as that safe option, that high floor option, although he had some high ceiling games. The connection is definitely there between the two of them. I still think that Sanders is the one you would take out of the three. If all three are on the board and you want to take a Bills receiver, take Sanders. He can still play. Watch him with San Francisco. Watch him with New Orleans. He can still play. And we saw what John Brown was doing with this role last year. I think they're roughly equivalent talents, which is to say they're both excellent talents as far as NFL wide receivers go. And then you have Gabriel Davis. And you mentioned it earlier in the show, Cease. Davis is the guy that is on the same page as Josh Allen on those extended plays. And I think that that is something that can make it so that even if, as we expect, when I say we, I mean myself and other people that are following the Bills, Sanders is ahead of Davis. Okay, if they saw Davis as ready to step up to that full-time outside receiver role, they would not have gone out and made a priority of getting Sanders. That's not to say that Davis couldn't play so well to just force their hand. So I'm not against taking Davis as that guy, but I think Sanders is the first guy up. And Cease, first game of the season, right? Sanders is going to face James Pierre. I don't even know, not Steven Nelson. He's with the Eagles now.
Right.
So, that second receiver, again, teams are going to go in and say, we got to make him throw to someone other than Stephon Diggs. I think first man up, that will be Sanders, but this is a nice, deep group of receivers. Allen's going to get value out of them. It still will remain mostly a pass-heavy offense and one that will put stress, finding that weakest link in the secondary.
Some interesting names behind those big four for Buffalo as well. And hey, shout out to Isaiah McKenzie, because when he first came into the league, like, he thought he was on the same level as E and DT, and well, he wasn't. And it affected his preparation, in my opinion, and how he responded to bad games and, didn't work with the Broncos. Bills figured out how to use him, and not fantasy relevant, but, hey, he's made a career. And you can't say that about everybody there. Duke Williams is a converted tight end. Bloom, I actually think he should go back to tight end. Honestly, with the way that we're seeing guys convert, Logan Thomas, we always talk about Darren Waller, et cetera. Like, yeah, you're Duke Williams. Just put the weight back on and go be a tight end. Although they do have some interesting tight ends we will get to a little bit later. I so love the fact that in this preseason watch list, you don't know how much you'll see Tanner Gentry get some passes from Josh Allen, but one of his favorite targets. In fact, they have two of his favorite targets from college, Bloom. We'll get to Jacob Hollister in a little bit, but they got Tanner Gentry. It's preseason watch list. I'll be watching these names, and I just mentioned a couple, Bloom. There's a few more.
Well, maybe the biggest one of all is Jake Kumaro. Maybe not in terms of names, but he already in camp is performing in a way that it's going to be difficult for them to leave him off the final 53. Hodgins, you mentioned, they bring in Davis and Hodgins. They're both big receivers that can win in the air. Davis, obviously, way ahead of schedule. Hodgins maybe fighting for a roster spot, but the kind of player that teams are going to be looking at picking up on waivers if he doesn't make the team. You mentioned McKenzie trying to hold down that jet sweep, return specialist spot. They did get Marquez Stevenson, a speedster, I think, in the 6th round. So that's a bit of a camp battle there. As you said, a lot of players to look at here. Another one of these teams where whoever doesn't make the Bills roster could get some interest from teams that are looking at their wide receiver group, like Minnesota, for instance, and saying, we need help.
We need help. Tight end, well, here's Diego in the chat room saying he can't quit Dawson Knox. Someone help. That's right. Because Dawson Knox is a player, it seems like the Bills can't quit either, because that's always still a thing. Stop trying to make Dawson Knox a thing and go ask Sir Smoke-A-Lot for some help if you need it. So let's talk about Dawson Knox again, Bloom, rinse, repeat, because here's the thing. If he doesn't do it, Jacob Hollister can.
Yeah.
He may be not able to cross the goal line with Seattle when he needs to, but that talent's always been there. I still don't understand why the Patriots didn't develop him further. I talked to Jacob at the Super Bowl years ago. I think it was the one against the Eagles. That's how long ago it was. And he was with the Patriots, and it was like, dude, when are they going to give you a chance? And they never did, and it goes to Seattle, whatever. Now he's back with Josh Allen. So if Dawson Knox continues to be that fantasy dud, Jacob Hollister could step in and be what they've wanted from their tight end position.
Not as athletic as Knox, but Knox is, if there's going to be a true hit from the tight end group, it will be Knox, because he's ultra athletic. He's one of the most athletic tight ends in the league, and he was a 3rd round pick, even though I don't even know how many balls he caught in college, like 30 or something. Don't look that up and quote me. He was barely used at Ole Miss, partially because he was banged up a lot, but also because DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. So there you go. Now, Knox, I think the team wanted to improve at tight end. Maybe the price for Zach Ertz was too high in a trade. Maybe the price will come down. It's certainly a team that's been connected to Zach Ertz as a possible trade destination, but it looks like they're going full speed ahead with Knox right now. But if Knox gets hurt, if Knox is inconsistent, there's Hollister waiting in the wings. Knox, again, because this is a robust passing game, and we talk about this, Cease, with tight ends like Blake Jarwin, for instance. When defenses are focused on receivers, that leaves the middle of the field for the tight end. And Dawson Knox can house call on a seam route that he gets behind the linebacker. He can win a foot race. So we can see him with some. Remember, in Allen's rookie year, in Knox's rookie year, he was a downfield target for Allen because he had the speed to get downfield and he would leak behind the defense. Not all the plays worked out, but Allen would make some aspirational throws downfield to him. So I'm not saying to take Dawson Knox. He's kind of a waiver wire watch list guy. But Jacob Hollister is extremely consistent. And like you said, there's that chemistry. And I think that's how the Bills are looking at it, as now we have a guy that, hey, we can just yank Knox off the field and have a consistent player in his place if necessary. It could be part of the reason that they're not going hard after Zach Ertz.
There you go. It is a wrap. Well, I mean, you don't want to talk about Bug Howard, right?
Converted wide receiver. We just need that list of all the converted wide receivers. But no, Bug Howard, he's no Hakeem Butler. He's no Tyree Jackson.
Yeah. So that is a wrap for the preseason watch list for the Bills. If you're watching on YouTube, we're doing the entire AFC East. If you are listening via Spotify or Apple Music or however you enjoy your podcast, we say thank you. Thank you for listening. It's August, Bloom, so our downloads are going crazy. So we certainly appreciate everyone for jumping on board here with the Audible and here with Footballguys.com. Make sure you do all those YouTube things, as our man Jason in the chat room is saying. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you never miss a vid. Thank you, Sasha. It is the Audible. He is Sigmund Bloom. I'm Cecil Lammey, and we're going through the AFC East. So just sit tight, everyone. Again, YouTube, we're going to continue this on because we have a discussion about the hot seat. In a make-or-break year for Tua Tagovailoa, does he make or does he break? That's next.
You've been to Miami, right? You went down, didn't you cover Super Bowl down there or something?
There in the Super Bowl, yeah.
Did you make it down to South Beach?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Did you get your Speedo out?
No. I was in dress shoes, actually.
Dress shoes and a Speedo?
Yes. What was I? It was before one of the events. And so, like, me and Mike Tanier were down there. They were actually staying on the water, like on South Beach. And we were staying by the airport. So it was always like a trek to get over there. And then, the stories I could tell you, not in front of a hot microphone.
Right.
Me and Frank Schwab at the Clevelander.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those nice Art Deco throwback hotels there.
Yes. Yeah. So me and Schwabi did it up there. It was awesome. That was a great night.
They have a late night scene there that really rivals like Las Vegas, you know. I mean, as far as like the VIP room inside of the VIP, like places that open at 2 a.m.
Right. Yeah, there's all sorts of rooms. There's all sorts of VIP rooms behind the VIP rooms. Like there's the velvet rope that you see, and then there's the velvet rope that you can't see.
Yeah, and if you have to ask, you'll never know. I'll be back in 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Hi, everybody. This is the intermission. This is Cecil Lammey and Sigmund Bloom going through Miami. Miami was good, though. I saw Snoop Dogg open for Guns N' Roses there. So that was another Frank Schwab adventure. Snoop Dogg opened for Guns N' Roses at the Super Bowl. And so that was awesome. And GNR was pretty good. Axel was actually like in shape and wasn't all
that's good
slobby and stuff like that. So it was good. Snoop didn't care. Snoop had another show afterwards.
Yeah.
So he was just like going through the motions for all the GNR fans. Like it was weird. You would think, hey, it's kind of our generation, you know, like it's crossing genres. Nah, there was GNR fans that didn't really get into Snoop. I was like, come on.
Jason is in the chat room. What's up, Jason?
Hey, Jason.
He told me that I'm not supposed to tell you that he likes Night Ranger because famously that was the first concert that I went to.
Yeah.
At the Pittsburgh Civic Arena, the Igloo, Night Ranger and Starship. So it makes me think of the Guns N' Roses Metallica tour. I think that one came to Three River Stadium.
Mm-hmm. I have an on the couch moment with Night Ranger, but that's a private story.
That's what the couch is for, yeah.
All right, as I cough up a lung, let's get to Miami and do this thing in 3, 2, 1. Tua Tagovailoa, they put more weapons around him. It is a make or break season, and well, that's if they don't trade for Deshaun Watson, Bloom, because that's looming around as of this recording. Is it make or break for Tua? What's he doing?
Yeah, this is a big question. This is one of the great reveals of the season, Cease. Maybe this is a good article idea if I ever have time to write even 1/10 of the articles I want to write, which is what are the 10 things forget about fantasy. They're all related to fantasy. I mean, you can't do anything in the NFL without it impacting fantasy in some way. But this is a great big reveal. And on the glass half full side, you have, he was still not a year removed from that hip injury, not moving the way that he usually did. You had Chan Gailey. How much of the failures last year were Chan Gailey, the way that he was shown the door? George Godsey, Eric Studesville, Cease, co-offensive coordinators, which I think really stands for we're going to try to keep things as continuous as possible so we can really see what Tua can do. You bring in Jalen Waddle. You bring in Will Fuller. You have a lot of things going on. Liam Eichenberg, maybe starting right tackle for them. They've restocked, even losing DJ Fluker, they've restocked the offensive line, and it's going to get better, much like the Bills' offensive line did over the first few years after they rebuilt that group. But if we look back at Tua's play last year, there's not a lot to hang your hat on. Hopefully they have him passing downfield more. Hopefully there's enough of a running game to keep heat off of him. And we'll see. I'm not taking Tua, and we'll get to the fantasy takes, right, on the receivers. It's just so crowded that I'm probably not taking a Miami receiver, but I want to see a success story here. And it's certainly in your 2 quarterback super flex leagues. Those are the kind of leagues where you need to take a stand on Tua, because if you wait and you get Tua as your number 2 quarterback and he hits, that's a key to winning your super flex 2 quarterback league. So there's much more intrigue to take your stand one way or the other on him. And Miami, like you said, there's the Deshaun Watson stuff floating. I still think that Philadelphia is probably the team, if it happens, before the stuff gets resolved, which it won't before the season is over. So lots of ifs and buts there. Tua, they want to see him put some butts in the seats.
Yeah, they want to see it finally happen. Bloom, I wish you and I could have a real conversation about propaganda, because I think it would be quite revealing for everyone out there. And it seems like, as Chris points out on our chat room, like the Dolphins go out of their way to be like, Tua's being aggressive. Don't worry about the 5 interception day. Tua's going downfield. He's doing what we want to. Look at these videos, all up in the videos, like Suge Knight, right? Or actually, he was making fun of Puffy when he said that. But yeah, all up in the videos with Tua. Is it real? Like, and like, I lean on Miami beat writers or people that I know that work for the team. Like, is it real or is it propaganda? Because we know propaganda can be very, very powerful.
Well, I think that what we can unpack from this conversation and bring it back to NFL terms is sometimes praise in camp, and this is one of those guide to sorting through camp news. Sometimes praise, and I just published something, by the way, like what I've learned in the first week, what you need to know out of the first week of training camp. Because sometimes when it's coming from the team, especially, watch out for those team sources online when it's the official team site.
Right.
Because some players, they sense a confidence problem. And see, we talk about this all the time, confidence. Like, if you want to tell a story of how a player takes off or how a player never takes off, confidence is usually part of that story.
Royce Freeman.
We could go on and on and on. I mean, confidence is everything. It's not ability. It's not capacity. It's confidence. It's belief in oneself. And I think Tua has that, but I also think Tua is at a major pressure point. It's really strange, Cease, for a quarterback to go number 5, and in his second season, everyone's saying, this is it. Make or break. That's not the typical, you usually wait until year 3 or maybe year 4, or these days with the 5th year option, year 5, at least year 3. And here he is going into year 2 with that. So maybe that's to soothe that a little bit, but it doesn't matter. Once the lights go on, it's Tua, and he has seemed like a child of destiny at times, but you also wonder about injuries piling up, and you just, again, this is one of the great reveals of the season. Is he going to answer the bell? Because Jacoby Brissett is decent, but it's not like Jacoby Brissett is going to come in like Ryan Fitzpatrick did last year.
Some people would say Jacoby Brissett's better than Russell Wilson, but those people now work in the NFL.
It's not a meritocracy.
That's a deep cut. And by the way, I like Andy. I know a lot of people like, oh, he's a jerk or whatever. He's always been nice to me. So whatever.
He's working for
for Sean McVay. Yeah, there you go. Go get him, Andy. All right, let's talk about Jacoby Brissett and Reed Sinnett behind him as a third string guy.
Right.
Yeah. Preseason watch list where I'm always constantly trying to update. Is Brissett doing something different, or do we already know who he is? You know what I mean? That's something to update with these type of players.
And if Tua goes down, he takes some hits. He's been injured many times in the past. Brissett can come in and help you preserve a win. If your defense, and this team has a good defense, if you're able to play sound football, not turn the ball over, Brissett is a really prototype backup quarterback in the sense that not a backup that can turn into a starter or something like that, but just the guy you feel okay knowing that if we have to bring someone in off the bench because of injury, we've got Jacoby.
Again, I will remind people, if you've listened to the show, it might have been one of our live shows, Bloom. Like, I had thrown out some Royce Freeman discussion. Mm-hmm. I still think he might end up in Miami. And I know I was clandestine when I said that. And then someone hit me on Twitter twice, and I apologize because, here comes my old man Twitter rant. But, it's Miami. I think there's a chance you get to the preseason because now we enter this backfield, and this is why it's so shaky to me. We're going to talk about Myles Gaskin and Malcolm Brown. Okay, good, decent in their own right in different ways. With Gaskin, you're wondering if he can stay healthy. With Brown, you're just, he's a limited back, natural, instinctive, but limited in what he can do. And that's why I think a smart team will take a look at a guy like Royce Freeman, whether it's Rams or whether it's the Dolphins. There's going to be some running back picked up somewhere. And it just seems like to me, Bloom, even though Miami hasn't done it yet, that the Dolphins backfield is unsettled. Mm-hmm. Help me out here.
Well, it's a question of whether the Dolphins are really doing some sort of running backs don't matter plan because there was a budget of free agent money they were going to spend. That's why they brought in Malcolm Brown. They didn't really have a chance to sign Aaron Jones. Remember, Aaron Jones signed before free agency opened now. Did they make their run at him? There's questions. We'll never really know. Then there was the draft. Denver leapfrogs them and gets Javonte Williams. Would they have taken Javonte Williams? Were they always on Javon Holland to help the secondary? We'll never know. But we're going to know at least a little more about how they feel about Myles Gaskin. Yeah, there's that classic no man's land or touches by default. How often do touches by default running backs work out? How often do running backs that didn't truly seize the job with their play work out? We'll see. Mike Davis is another one. Darrell Henderson, to an extent, is another one here. But Malcolm Brown's presence is very much a problem, right? Malcolm Brown is the kind of assignment sound, consistent running back that makes coaches feel better putting him out on the field. Like, Cecil, Eric Studesville. These running back coach / offensive coordinator types, Anthony Lynn.
Oh, Brown's the type of guy at Studesville, all cheese on cheesing. I mean, all the time, man. He loves him because Malcolm Brown's not going anywhere.
Right.
He's going to do what you tell him. Hey, and that's going to make you feel good as a coach. Like, he does exactly what I tell him to do.
Yeah, and that includes in goal line work. Remember, that's how the Rams were using him, so that's bad for Gaskin. Now, Gaskin can still make it happen as a receiver. Gaskin won some titles for folks last year, but I think around that time of the draft, when you're looking at the quarterbacks you could take or the wide receivers you could take, I just think Gaskin is a pick you're forcing yourself into. There's a Salvin Ahmed. It's burst. You know, when San Francisco signs an undrafted free agent running back, pay attention. Miami did, and they ended up snatching Ahmed whenever he didn't hang with the 49ers, and he made some things happen. And dare I say, Ahmed has a little more, at least in terms of burst, acceleration to offer than Gaskin. I don't think he's going to take over the job from Gaskin, but that also could complicate things. And then you have Jared Dokes. Let's go and throw him in there. A big power back, kind of one of those guys that you say run that way real hard. That's still somebody that can make this into an even further refracted committee here. So I think that you have at least 3 backs in play. Like you said, Cease, this is absolutely a team that could be one of the things we have to remember about training camp, preseason watch list, right? Some teams wait until training camp, a couple of weeks of practices to evaluate what they have to make a move. And I think Miami is squarely in that group. Now, if they don't make a move, maybe that's an endorsement of Gaskin. Maybe by the time we get to early September, we say, well, they haven't done anything, so they must be okay with Gaskin. But let's watch the preseason reps. Let's watch the news out of Miami because this is a fluid situation.
Don't watch what they say. If you could actually watch that like a word bubble in a comic book, watch what they do. Transactions. Their actions will speak very, very loud, and they'll tell you the truth. Let's talk about the backups quickly, if you'd like, Bloom. Anyone of interest? I know Jordan Scarlett, to me, he was with Carolina. I was interested. Hey, let's see what he could do. Now he's with Miami. I'll still be interested. It's preseason watch list. That's what these games are for.
Yeah, another straight ahead guy, downhill back. There's a type here. We'll watch these guys for sure. I guess this is a moment, Cease, for me to say there's a lot more running backs who can play in the NFL than roster spots for running backs. So some of these guys that we talk about just as a footnote in the preseason watch list, if they got a chance to be on the field, could make a little noise. And Jordan Scarlett could be one of those guys.
It is the Audible. It's the preseason watch list. It's 32 teams, 32 episodes, and every skill position player that you want to know about, we talk about right here on this show, going through the Miami Dolphins and now to the cluster of wide receivers. But before that, sign up for our free daily newsletter at footballguys.com. You love the show, you listen to the show. Maybe you're new. We're getting a lot of new listeners. We're getting a lot of new viewers, new subscribers, new viewers on YouTube as well. So welcome. This is the Audible. We've done this since 2006. Been on YouTube for however long as well. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you want to dip your toe in with footballguys.com, hey, check out our free daily newsletter. Every day, all the top stories from around the NFL, hot and fresh to your inbox with commentary by me, Sigmund Bloom, Joe Bryant. You have a life we don't. Let us handle it. We'll give you all the news you need to know right there. It is our free daily newsletter. Go to footballguys.com and sign up now. All right, let's get to the wide receivers. And was it Diego earlier in the chat room, Bloom, that was like, do they have like a stockpile of wide receivers, or do they just have kind of a bunch? Kind of a group, because they have Devontae Parker, who, will do his thing. They have Will Fuller now, if he stays healthy and is not suspended. We'll talk about that. There's Will Fuller. Jalen Waddle, incredibly exciting. Preston Williams hurt, shocker. So let's talk about those top 3 and just what they could bring to the table for Tua if he is aggressive and having this fantastic year.
There's a lot, but how many of these players are going to be available? How many of them are going to play at their peak? And again, enter stage left, Albert Wilson. We have to talk about Albert Wilson because he was a good receiver that they paid a lot of money, and he's having an excellent camp, and he's exactly the kind of receiver that will help a young quarterback, right? He's a receiver who can get you some layups. He's a receiver who can be shorthanded and do the right thing. Now, what they also have are receivers who can win downfield. Will Fuller, who they bring in, is going to miss the first game because of suspension. He's a little bit banged up the open to camp, but hopefully nothing major. Jalen Waddle. Now, Jalen Waddle's having a good camp outside. There was some talk that he could play in the slot. Again, Albert Wilson could mess that up, but he's also having a good camp outside. But you also hear these reports that he's occasionally limping, and he may not be all the way back from the gnarly leg injury he suffered last year. There's Devontae Parker. He started camp on the PUP list. Now, he's off the PUP list, but again, he's with Fuller and Parker. They're just reminding us, yeah, injuries are always part of the story of their season. Always. So do you really want to invest in an offense where we're not sure about the quality of the pass offense? We're not sure about the quality of the quarterback. It's a young offensive line. And we have, 4 relevant wide receivers. Poor Preston Williams breaking out and breaking something or tearing something in the process 2 years in a row, but he's almost a forgotten man at this point. Jakeem Grant is still here. See, I'm throwing all these guys. I mean, that's 6 deep now.
Right.
Of guys who can play. They can all have different roles. Again, obviously, some of these guys are outside receivers, some are inside receivers. In the case of Waddle, it could be both. In the case of Fuller, it could be both. It's a lot to solve. And when the payoff is going to be hinging on the quality of this offensive coaching staff and the quality of Tagovailoa in his second year, I just think it's not the kind of wager you want to make in your fantasy league, although it will be interesting to watch how it plays out. If there's a big hit here, it's either Fuller or Waddle. Waddle as a rookie sensation, or Fuller because we saw him last year as a hit until he had that suspension, and then everybody forgot about what he did last year. Well, because the suspension seemed to nullify it or taint it.
Yeah, a Fuller will hit, but there's a limitation. There's a timer on his hit. With Waddle, it could be a pretty long hit. But again, lots of ifs with these guys. Let's go even deeper on this group, on this depth chart, dude. Lots of talent and names that fantasy GMs are going to recognize, like Robert Foster, Mac Hollins, Lynn Bowden, Alan Hearn still kicking around. Yeah, Isaiah Ford back. Like so much talent, so many activities, and so much talent at the wide. We got to tight end. Wait till we get there. But wide receivers, yeah, there's a ton to watch here in the preseason.
Yeah, there is. And again, this is another common theme here where these receivers, Lynn Bowden. See, can I just take a moment out? Because I think this got glossed over a little bit in the offseason. And I don't want to insinuate. I guess I am insinuating. But with Bowden, because everybody was scratching their head, like, why did he get released? They take him with a 3rd round pick and then they release him. Or trade him. I'm sorry.
Trade
for what?
Him, yeah.
They trade him for a lesser pick. They already give up on him. And there was that talk about, I don't remember exactly, it was like a relative of his, like a house where there was a drug raid. Or maybe a house where there was a drug raid where he was present at the time of the drug raid. Because the Raiders tried to sell it as he wasn't as fast as we thought he was. At least that's what I remember reading. What? Really?
Come on now.
So, maybe Bowden got done dirty a little bit there. You want to see him hang here or somewhere else. Ford can play. Again, where are they going to find roster spots for all these guys? I don't know. Other teams are going to be watching this closely. So they have a lot of talent here at wide receiver. I think it speaks to, let's mention this. Again, in the Flores regime, the Flores Greer regime, in just a span of a few years, have gone from a team that is trawling all the other teams' garbage, what their garbage for treasures, right? Because this was how poor this roster was whenever Adam Gase was shown the door. Now this is a team where other teams are looking at their garbage, looking through their leftovers and saying we can do something with that. That's a testament to what they've done there.
Yes, a testament to what they've done at the tight end position. Now, Mike Gesicki there, Durham Smythe, though, and that combination. Are we looking at a tight end by committee to frustrate fantasy GMs here?
Yeah, and they picked up Adam Shaheen cheaply, and they also drafted Hunter Long, who's super reliable. Now, when they drafted Hunter Long, a lot of people thought that meant Smythe might not make the team. Smythe's still a solid player, though. Yeah. So maybe they're waiting. Teams love 2 tight end sets. They love 2 tight end sets. Offensive coordinators love 2 tight end sets. So maybe they're waiting for a team whose group isn't as deep as they want it to be, and enter Smythe in a trade. So, yeah, they're 4 deep at tight end. And that's really good for this offense. Maybe not good for Mike Gesicki. And remember, where would Gesicki make his money? Where would Gesicki make his money for our fantasy teams? In the slot. Well, if Albert Wilson's coming on and Jalen Waddle, you really going to play Gesicki over these guys? I don't know. I don't know about the chemistry. Remember, the best chemistry we saw last year from Tagovailoa was with Preston Williams. So Gesicki, best ball maybe because he can make some big plays, have some big games, but consistency is going to be very difficult to come by from targets in this passing game.
It is the preseason watch list. Any of the how many tight ends do they have, man?
Right, they're on the Bears plan.
Yeah, just throw it all against the wall. See what sticks. Any of these guys you want to talk about?
4 is enough. Remember 8 is enough? 4 is enough.
4 is enough. That'll do, pig. All right, it is the Audible, the preseason watch list. It is 32 teams, 32 episodes, and every skill position player that you want to know about, we talk about right here on this show. You're watching on YouTube, do those YouTube things like comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. Thank you, Sasha. Let's talk about Mac Jones, and not if, But when he takes over for the Patriots, what'll that do to their offense? We'll discuss it next. All right.
I want to say that Josh McDaniels said Mac Jones is good at getting yelled at.
They have to love that in New England because they
Right?
love yelling.
Right? I mean, I don't think it was tongue in cheek. I didn't see the actual footage of the quote. I just saw the quote. He's good at getting yelled at. I mean, I think that's actually a skill.
Yeah. Well, and in football, you got to know how to take a chewing because it's overweight guys and windbreakers yelling at you. That's what the game's all about. So, there is a skill in that. We can talk and discuss about how much yelling should happen,
right?
And how effective is that for grown ass men? But
the price of greatness, the price of greatness. Let me tell you a quick little Olympic story, since I love these Olympic stories. I love telling stories, right? So we were watching, Kate, because Kate was a really excellent swimmer. He got offered a scholarship to Boston College. So we really look forward to the Olympic swimming. We watch it all very closely. And there's this swimmer for the United States, Robbie Fink is his name. Okay. And he raced the 800 meters and the 1500 meters. These are long races. These are really long races, like swimming as hard as you can for 8 minutes or 15 minutes, right? So they're endurance races. One of the interesting things about watching the Olympics is it's testing different types of athleticism, right? Or different parts of your mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual constitution, That's why the decathlon used to be the marquee event, because it tested all of these different types of athleticism. Anyway, or superstars, if you remember that. Anyway, so Fink was just amazing, scintillating, because he was hanging back third or fourth in these races. And then on the last 50 meters, the last lap of the pool, he just looked like he was shot out of a gun. Somehow, after swimming as hard as he can for 7-8 minutes, for 14, 15 minutes, he finds it to pass. And all of these guys have been training most of their lives for this. And he just blows past them. And I think he did it in the 1500 first, and then did it in the 800, or vice versa. So you saw him do it once, and then when he was up again a few days later, can he do it again? Here he is coming down the stretch, and he's third, right? So Kate had always told me, when she was a high school competitive swimmer, that her coach would ride them and yell at them basically for the entire practice, right? So they asked Robbie Fink. Thankfully, the interviewer actually did their job, and they asked the question the way you would want to ask it, how do you do it? How do you do that? And he said, I just hear my coach yelling at me in my head.
Okay.
So there you go, yelling.
But you can take a negative and turn it into a positive. You really can.
Yeah.
As long as there's care behind it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Love.
Yeah. As long as that coach that, I love you, but I'm going to chew on you a little bit. Right.
Does Bill Belichick love his players? I think so. Did you see the skate party with Randy Moss? Maybe he loved the players during the Randy Moss era.
Well, Bill Parcells did. I mean, Nick will tell me that all the time when he talks about Bill Parcells, because Parcells, all you had to do was show him that you could take that, and he would then love you, and he'd love you up. Mm-hmm. So again, Herman Edwards, same thing. Anyway, that's a true on the couch topic, by the way.
Yeah, man. Yeah, there you go. Right. So there's your Olympics minute in between preseason watches episodes.
Okay. And that's my Olympics update because I don't watch. Anyway. All right, let's go on in 3, 2, 1. Cam Newton is the starter for the New England Patriots, but Mac Jones was taken in the first round for a reason. So when, not if, Mac Jones takes over, Bloom, how does that change your fantasy perspective? How does that change this offense?
Yeah, and the when is maybe the bigger question here. When will Mac Jones take over? At this moment, Cam Newton has been more consistent than he was in the spring, but still with that Cam Newton inconsistency. The way it's been cast by some of the beat writers I trust, at least, 51-49 is not going to do it. Not for week 1. 51-49 is not going to do it for Mac Jones. He's not going to just edge out Cam Newton and win this job. And Cam Newton has been up first in every drill. Does that matter? I mean, I think it shows something. It shows something. I think it's Cam Newton's job. It's Cam Newton's team. He's the incumbent. So Mac Jones has to decisively outperform him. And I think there are obviously some things that Mac Jones is going to be better at than Cam Newton. Negotiating the pocket, accuracy, probably executing plays on time and things like that. But Cam Newton still gives you that running ability. And your glass half full take here on Cam Newton is he came in without a chance to learn the Josh McDaniels offense, which is not going to be an easy offense to learn. He got COVID during the season that he himself said affected him for the rest of the season. He could be, I'm not saying we're going to say Cam Newton's going to win your fantasy league for you, but again, in your 2 quarterback super flex leagues, I think he's underrated because in your second quarterback in a super flex league, you'll take a 5 or a 10 from him if you can get a 25 or a 30 sometimes, and Cam Newton can do that because of his rushing ability at the goal line. Now, if it's Mac Jones, we're looking at maybe more value for someone like Jacoby Myers, more value for the tight ends, more value for the passing game. We'll have more pass attempts and more value for Damian Harris because Cam Newton won't be in to vulture those touchdowns at the goal line. However, who knows? Maybe Cam Newton will still be in at the goal line. Why would, even if Mac Jones is the starter, why wouldn't you bring Cam Newton out there for some packages? And remember, some of the value to this team for Cam Newton is they love him in the locker room. He's a player that the team rallies behind. I think people would be surprised at how well he and Belichick have jived and been on the same page. I mean, he brought him back. Belichick was the only guy willing to take a chance on him last year. So I think we should assume it's Newton's job. And it's possible that Mac Jones could overtake him if he gets better and better as camp goes on. And then at that point, when does Jones take over outside of Newton getting hurt? I don't know. Maybe if the team falls out of the playoff hunt. But with all of the improvements, I didn't really do the scene setting here because the scene setting here is they add Nelson Aguilar, they add Kendrick Bourne, they add Jonnu Smith, they add Hunter
Every
Henry.
tight end under the sun.
Yeah. They add Trent Brown. This is going to be a team with a good offensive line. So we went from watching this team, this offense, this was the most difficult offense to watch last year. Having a first down was like having a baby for them. I mean, it was all of the effort and screaming and tears just to get a first down for this offense at times last year. That's not going to be the picture this year. It's going to be at least a competent offense. So there could be a lot more here than we expect, including from Cam Newton. And I do think if it's Cam Newton week 1, then it's at least like 75-25. It's Cam Newton in week 18.
And we know coaches, who do coaches love the most, Bloom? Themselves. And Josh McDaniels, his system can be run more true to the actual system when Mac Jones takes over. And Jones is a player at the Senior Bowl. Listen, it wasn't like watching Justin Herbert at the Senior Bowl or Baker Mayfield or even Josh Allen at the Senior Bowl. Like it wasn't like that. But when you talk about short and intermediate accuracy, he has to wind up to throw deep. Like we all know what Mac Jones is. But when you say smart and accurate quarterback, going to run the playbook as designed, going to know the full playbook, going to respond to taking that chewing, as we were talking about in the break, Bloom.
Yeah.
Mac Jones could be that coach's favorite that they really want to see out there.
And they're happy with him. I think they're happy with the pick. And I think that I probably contributed to this, so I apologize. But in the narrative of the 49ers aren't really going to take Mac Jones, are they? They're not really going to take Mac Jones.
That was never a thing.
It wasn't. But it overshadowed that Mac Jones is still has a chance to be a solid NFL quarterback, the kind of quarterback, Jared Goff. I mean, he can be better than Jared Goff, but the kind of quarterback like we're talking about that can take the coach's scheme to the field and execute. And he can negotiate the pocket well. He does make some creative throws or some throws that show mental toughness, throwing into small windows, throwing whenever he has to stare down the barrel of somebody closing in on him. Not mobile. I still think that Mac Jones maps to somebody like Andy Dalton when we look at his strengths and weaknesses. Maybe he's got a little better than Andy Dalton, but I still don't think Mac Jones is a guy that is going to give you a lot of value in true deep passing, like the ball travels 60 yards in the air, deep passing. I think it's more of the short, intermediate, middle of the field, the stuff that's there by design. And if he's outside the pocket, then he's really going to look overwhelmed, I think. At times he looked like that at Alabama. I think in the NFL he definitely is. But he's going to be this team's long-term quarterback. I would expect. So that's good. The Mac Jones pick has been a good pick for this team. They were patient. They didn't trade up. Everything kind of fell into place for them. And then we will see something more like the classic Josh McDaniels offense that we've seen in the past. So usually, things are working out here. And Cecil, I think this affects the question of how long will Bill Belichick coach? I think Mac Jones can extend Bill Belichick's coaching career.
Right. And behind him, well, Jarrett Stidham's banged up, so whatever. And I'm a freak, Bloom, as someone who has every preseason game on tape from the year 2000 till now, except for week 4, because week 4 doesn't matter and now doesn't exist. Yeah, Jacob Dogala. I'll watch.
Yeah, but
I'm weird. I'm weird that way.
Yeah, Stiddy's hurt too. You know, if Stidham wasn't hurt, he could be somebody that could be an emergency quarterback trade
for sure,
target.
For sure.
So he's hurt right now. Patriots quarterbacks always see, for a team that had one quarterback for like 18 years, it's always interesting to talk about the other quarterbacks on the Patriots, even if they aren't that good.
Let's move to the running back position, and they've got some good ones, starting with Damian Harris. But Bloom, and I'll save a little Ramondre Stevenson take for a little bit later, but how much will the other guys, Sony Michel and James White, cut into what Harris wants to do? How do fantasy GMs navigate this situation where it could easily turn into three-headed backfield?
It is, yeah. I mean, it's a three-headed backfield. It's just a question of who the three heads are going to be. Belichick backfield. Now, glass half full take on Damian Harris is all of the reports out of training camp are he's really the lead back, or he's the best back in this backfield. He's playing like and looking like the best back in this backfield. And then if Mac Jones can take over, now we're really talking, because he can get those touchdowns and the good offensive line. Now, Sony Michel doesn't look too bad either. Sony Michel is also a running back that could get traded because of Ramondre Stevenson. Ramondre Stevenson, kind of a LeGarrette Blount type. He can also contribute on special teams. So there's a lot of different moving parts here, right? Harris is on the roster to begin the season, and White is on the roster to begin the season. Okay, we can count on that. And I don't want to gloss over this real quick, folks. James White is an excellent late-round pick, especially in best ball leagues. In best ball leagues, he's almost a must pick because Rex Burkhead's gone. He's with the Texans. So now James White, his numbers dipped a little bit, his consistency dipped a little bit. Now he's got that receiving back role all to himself. Okay, so he's in there. Harris is in there. Michel could be there. They would be fine with him being there, but he could also be a trade target if Stevenson shows them enough. However, Bill Belichick always likes to redshirt his rookie backs, unless you're talking about a first rounder like Michel. It happened for Damian Harris. We kept wondering in his rookie year, you can do the
when is it going to happen?
When is he going to play? He's just not going to. Doesn't matter how many injuries are ahead of him, etc. Belichick's going to redshirt those rookie backs. So Stevenson has to show enough in training camp that he deserves to play ahead of the typical Belichick timeline. Now, again, Stevenson and his special teams ability can give him that path to make the roster and maybe say, we can trade Sony Michel and we can save a roster spot in the process, but enter Brandon Bolden. Now, Bolden is that special teams ace, and I think you can see Belichick really values the special teams ace as much as some teams value starters at other positions. So can Stevenson convince them that they don't need Bolden back from an opt-out? And then there's still J.J. Taylor. Let's go and round this out, because J.J. Taylor is a nice scat back. You can do stuff with a J.J. Taylor. He's hung around on this roster. They like him. So I don't think this team would carry 6 running backs, but I think they have 6 running backs that they want to carry.
Yeah, they have 6 running backs, and well, as we saw with the young Tommy Brady, they could find a way. We'll carry 4 quarterbacks. We don't care. So we'll see. Ramondre Stevenson, though, down at the Senior Bowl, Bloom. Yeah, and this is Matt Waldman and I. We get in some disagreements about running backs, and it seems to never work out for either one of us, right? Like whether it was Mikel LeSure or whatever. Whenever Matt and I disagree on a back, it's interesting. And that's what happened with Ramondre Stevenson, because he had some pre-Senior Bowl hype. Went down there to Mobile. I was like, he looks like a fullback. Now, with the Patriots, he might look like Rex Burkhead as a fullback, which has some intrigue. But either way, we'll put a pin in it. And it always makes me a little nervous when Matt and I disagree on a running back. But I'm just going to tell you what my eyes see, baby. And when I see Ramondre Stevenson, I see maybe a little bit too much of a plotter. We'll see if that changes.
Yeah, and the point is this, Cecil, whatever he can do well, they'll ask him to do that.
They'll ask him to do just that.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Don't do anything else. We're fine. We're totally fine. It is the Audible. It's the preseason watch list. 32 teams, 32 episodes, and every skill position player that you give a damn about. We talk about them right here on this show. Before we get to the wide receivers, and these aren't that interesting. Maybe interesting because they're not interesting. I don't know. I'll tell you what is interesting. You love the show. You want to support the show. The best way to do that, first off, thank you guys. We can't do this without you. We've been doing this show since 2006. A lot of new listeners. We appreciate you guys for jumping on board. Hey, check out footballguys.com. Hey, I love the show. Want to support the show? Well, go to footballguys.com. Get that premium subscription. If you're watching shows like this one, you are a serious fantasy player, but consistently winning in fantasy football is challenging and it takes time. You need a Football Guys premium subscription that gives you an edge and helps make winning decisions in less time. Just head to footballguys.com, click that orange button in the upper right corner that says join now. We'll do the work, you do the winning, and you take all the credit, baby. It's footballguys.com. We appreciate you guys. Let's get to these wide receivers. And hey, N'Keal Harry's having a good camp. Stop me if you've heard this before. But Jacoby Myers, interesting. Kendrick Bourne's always been interesting. Nelson Aguilar, we'll see what he does now. So, we have this cluster of receivers, and it's a sticky situation, Bloom.
It is. But Aguilar is going to help them from a tactical standpoint. It's going to give them the ability to stretch the field. Overpaid for him, okay. But still, you see why they would overpay or at least want to go after someone like Aguilar. More of a best ball play. Jacoby Myers can be very consistent. Probably going to lead the team in catches. What is that worth in fantasy football? An emergency buy injury kind of guy. Probably not somebody. Again, this is going to be a lower volume pass offense, even with Mac Jones. This is not going to be a team that throws the ball 600 times. And it's going to be spread out. It's going to be spread out because you also have Kendrick Bourne, who they paid for. Bourne can play in the slot. Bourne's going to be a reliable receiver. We haven't even gotten to the tight ends yet. But then again, also there's, of course, N'Keal Harry, who's making some plays. You're going to use him to win on contested catches, maybe as a red zone specialist, but that's it. He's going to have a very specialized role. So you may see 4 receivers have a role, plus this is going to be a 2 tight end offense. So how many times is there going to be even 3 wide receivers on the field? I think this is a team that's going to win with defense. I think this is a team that's going to win by not turning the ball over. And that's not exactly a recipe for massive overachievers in the passing game.
Yeah, especially with this cluster at the wide receiver position. So you don't think Harry gets traded like he once wanted to?
It's possible, but I mean, maybe that's the thing, right? Like we're hearing all this great stuff about Harry out of training camp to create a market for him. But I think if we see him traded, Cease, we're seeing him traded. This is like Dante Pettis. We're going to see him traded for a 6th round pick, and he's going to be 5th on the depth chart somewhere. So probably at this point, if he's going to be interesting in fantasy this year, it would be, I don't want to even say New England because of what I just laid out about his role, but at least he has some continuity there. I think if he's coming into another team at the end of training camp, they're looking at him as someone they're trying to develop to get something out of him by year 4 of his rookie year.
I always like Devin Ross in college. It is preseason watch list, so I'll be watching. The main thing, and we can talk about the backup receivers, Bloom, whatever is whatever, but the main thing I'll be watching for in the preseason is who does Mac Jones favor?
Sure.
So when he takes over, does he really have a strong connection with Kendrick Bourne? Who's his guy? And that's what I'll be looking for. And maybe some old college favorites.
Yeah, there's
rekindling that during the preseason.
Absolutely, Cease. We love giving some love to these players who maybe only shine in the preseason just because of the nature of the NFL. Isaiah Zuber isn't a guy that was pushing Harry for that number 4 spot. A speedy receiver, Christian Wilkerson, a small school receiver trying to make it. Trey Nixon, a little banged up. He's an interesting player. Certainly had fans in the draft community. So we'll see. That they're going to have Gunnar Olszewski is going to make the team for his special teams. Man, Spellcheck loves his special teams guy.
Yeah, just as long as he doesn't hit the news wire very much, so I don't have to spell Olszewski or whatever.
Pride of Bemidji State.
There you go. When a coach is just fascinated, smitten, whatever you want to say, with a player, and he finally gets a chance to get him, Diego brings it up. Bill Belichick has loved Jonnu Smith for years. Finally got him. And yeah, he got Hunter Henry as well. But let's talk about this situation and think of either Cam Newton using a security blanket receiver or Mac Jones coming in needing that binky. Rookie quarterbacks need their binky. That's Jonnu Smith. And I know the other tight ends, and we'll get to all of them and interesting names. But man alive, Jonnu Smith. Jacoby Myers should leave the team in catches, Bloom. But if Jonnu Smith did, would you be surprised?
No. He just needs to stay healthy. Give me the over/under on Johnny Smith games played, right? Because if he plays 17 games, then he is at least 50-50 with Myers or James White to lead 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So Johnny Smith has upside. Now, I might prefer Adam Troutman or Blake Jarwin if we're looking at upside tight ends that you're taking in the second half of your draft, but Johnny Smith absolutely applies because he was the priority. That was the guy that right away, first things first, we're going to get Johnny Smith. And they paid him and they got him. And Johnny Smith is a dynamic player. He's a bully in the open field. He can be used in the running game. He's a good blocker. He can be detached from the formation. You can do a lot of things with Johnny Smith. But then enter Hunter Henry. There was that 24 hours there, Cecil, when we thought Johnny Smith could be the breakout tight end of 2021. And then they bring in Hunter Henry. And I get it. Why do coaches like two tight end sets so much? And this is a whole other digression, Cease, but it's deception because you can do what are the Seattle? We're going to get this to the NFC West episode. Why is Seattle so excited to run Shade Waldron's offense? Deception, because the run plays look the same as the pass plays.
Right.
And in a two tight end offense, you can do that so easily, especially whenever there are players like Henry and Smith who can block and be passing game. I don't want to say Hunter Henry's a weapon, but he's competent. He's going to do his job. And Henry may have more touchdowns than Smith. And if we think that Smith's injury prone out of the two, more likely to miss time, then there's your path to some value for Henry. I still think that they're best ball commodities more than leveling off as a tight end you plug in every week. Again, we can go back to the Gronkowski-Hernandez days, how well this offense functioned with two tight ends. We can also say that this team did the Rams, the key drive, that 22 personnel, two tight ends, two running backs, something they'd never done really in the regular season. And it was responsible for the one drive that kind of cracked the Rams defense and allowed them to win the Super Bowl. So they know how many McDaniels knows, and they took. See, this is like turning the page to the next part of the stake. They took Devin Ossie, and Dalton King last year in the third round to try to plant the seeds of that, and they just got impatient, or maybe they've just seen enough and said that's not the answer. Let's open up the pocketbook and let's buy the answer.
Yeah, and I'll still be preseason watch list watching Ossie to see what he could develop in. Is there any sort of weapon there? Dalton King, shout out to Chatfield Chargers, baby. And Dalton's on the pup list. I don't know why. Anyway, so, watch to see if there's anything there. Dalton's an H-back. He always is. So from fantasy lens, there won't be a ton of production there. But it's preseason watch list. They've got like a couple of sets. Hell, Matt Lacoste can make plays. Troy Fumagalli could make plays.
Yeah.
So, we'll be watching these guys.
And it gives us a chance, to as long as we can bring up Dalton Keene on the preseason watch list. We can talk about ninth grade, right, when he beat out Liam?
They were freshmen, yes. Mm-hmm. They were freshman quarterbacks together.
So there's your brush with greatness.
Right. And I saw it from day one. I was like, that kid's different. And you could just tell. So that's a wrap for the New England Patriots. We have one more team left, and you know who it is. In the preseason watch list, it's 32 teams, 32 episodes, every skill position player that you need to know about. We talk about on the show and why the pressures on the field and from the media. How does it affect Zach Wilson? The answer will not make Jets fans happy, but we'll tell you the truth, and we'll do it next. All right, poor little Zach Wilson. The one team that you could go to, right? Like, I guess we're save it for the show.
Well, I think that so far so good. The question is, save it for the show is, does Robert Saleh and the whole San Francisco system overpower the Jets' negative mojo? But that's tough.
Right.
We feel for you, Jets fans. We feel for you. You're a Beatles guy. We've never really talked about the Beatles. You like the Beatles? Paul McCartney. Jet. The Wings. Do you know the song Jet? Jet.
Oh yeah.
Woo, woo.
Yeah.
Jet. A little singing in. Warm up the pipes,
Yeah, a little bit. All right, let's go on in 3, 2, 1. Zach Wilson has a ton of talent, but New York, the place where pressure abounds, not only on the field, But from the media, pressure's the one thing he couldn't handle, Bloom. So how does he handle it this year as a rookie?
I don't know. This is one Cease where you almost want him to be usefully oblivious, kind of like Joe Flacco was in his rookie year. You know, when Flacco was under a lot of pressure because they didn't expect him to have to start that early. We'll see. That's the biggest question here with the adjustment from BYU to the NFL and starting right away. Now, the good news is the Jets, they bring in Robert Saleh, I think one of the better hires. Yeah, they bring in Michael LaFleur. It's going to incorporate the Kyle Shanahan offense, which makes life a lot easier for the quarterback. And they actually go out and they move up to draft Elijah Vera Tucker, the best ready to start guard in the draft. So now you have the left hand of that line because Mekhi Becton is going to be one of the best left tackles in the league. At least he's on that trajectory. And then they bring in Morgan Moses, who's a very solid right tackle in his own right, even though he might be past his true prime. So we looked at the Jets' offensive line as a major weakness. Now it's not necessarily a strength, but it may not leave Wilson running for his life. The other thing here we have to look at, Cease, is what does the post-Gase effect look like for a whole team? We've seen it with Ryan Tannehill and Devontae Parker and so on and so forth. We've seen it with these players, and everything we know points to your worst picture of Adam Gase and how he's running this team was probably too charitable, right?
Yes, very much so.
So how does that lift the spirits of this team? How is it like taking that big weight off of your shoulders and now you can just move, you can run, you can have your mojo back? So that's something else that is a team-wide thing, but I think as goes the team, so goes Wilson. Hopefully it isn't that Wilson has so much trouble or gets hurt so that as goes Wilson, so goes the team. It's going to be interesting to watch, though. At least right now, Jets fans have hope with a new beginning.
Yeah, the problem with Wilson is like, how are they going to treat him right when he's struggling? Because he is going to struggle. Now, this system is very good for him. Very, very good. It's Michael LaFleur system. It's a Shanahan system. It's a Kubiak system. We know it from San Francisco. We know it from everywhere. So the options that they'll give him, high, low, run, are something that he can do. But to me, Bloom, he was a tale of two quarterbacks on film. Without pressure, he'll slice you up. But man alive, he got too cute a lot of times trying to make little sidearm throws. Like, you're not Pat Mahomes yet, kid. Maybe one day you could be, but like, you have to stay true mechanically. And it seems like Wilson got a little lazy doing that. When those things crop up as a rookie, will the media take it easy on him because he's their darling, or will they attack?
They're going to attack.
Well, then how does he respond? Because I don't think he's going to respond well.
And only he knows, and he may not know until it happens. And Cease, I think the little things we're going to look for on the field are sliding at the end of runs, not making those throws that are ill-fated from the beginning, not like Daniel Jones, lacking the pocket awareness to affect your ball security and have these plays that are just crushing for a team's momentum, for a team's morale during a game. But yeah, the media is going to make it hard on him. And again, Cease, let's look back at who's been successful. Like in the last 20 years, who's the only quarterback that has successfully navigated the New York media waters?
Pennington, maybe?
Eli Manning.
Oh, yeah, you're talking all New York, yeah.
Right, because of the obliviousness, right? Because of this sense. Now, is Zach Wilson going to be that guy? We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out about this backfield as well. Lots of talk, lots of excitement around the backfield because, again, it's a Shanahan system. Okay, it's a Kubiak system. Like, yes, we know there can be quite a bit of goodness here, chunky goodness. And we need to talk about all of them, Bloom, honestly, because Tevin Coleman there, Michael Carter, the guy everyone's going crazy for good reason. So I'm down at the Senior Bowl. There you go, Jason. And every day there's your Vic Fangio impression as well. So Jason got his 4-pack in the dab pen. But Michael Carter, incredibly explosive, like instant burst. Instant, like he's in the third level, not even the second level. Like you just blink and this kid's gone. The one problem, and Clinton Portis took about 5 games before he got going, and there's a reason why I bring up Clinton Portis, Bloom, because I think he's somewhat similar, which should be very exciting for you in this system. Remember, Portis was a 1,500-yard back as a rookie, and he didn't get going until week 5. But the one problem with Michael Carter that showed up at the Senior Bowl, glaring, he cannot pass protect. You got a rookie quarterback. In this system, it's very needed that when you're doing those things, they need to be done well. Can he pick that up? Because he's clearly, don't give me Tevin Coleman. Don't give me LaMichael Pirine. Like, it's clearly Michael Carter as this game changer type of running back. Hell of a pick. Certainly a great pick for the Jets. But if he can't pass protect, he can't see the field. Or he can't see the field enough, Bloom. Let's talk about it.
I think that's the main question here is, will he see the field enough to be a relevant or even productive, a winning fantasy player? And everything's on his side. Every single report, Michael Carter's the most impressive running back in this backfield. Now, you might say that's a low bar. And Michael Carter reminds me, see, Duke Johnson, and that's not an insult.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Now, unfortunately, what has happened in Duke Johnson's NFL career? You see his ability as a receiver. You even see his burst as a runner sometimes, but he's undersized. He's not a true every down back. And even whenever teams have given up capital, have signed him to extensions, they don't use him to the fullest of his extent. Again, I think of Darren Sproles. Now, Michael Carter's not Darren Sproles. There's only one Darren Sproles. Is he going to go in the Hall of Fame? I hope he goes in the Hall of Fame. He's in my Hall of Fame. Anyway, Carter still, if Carter's catching 3 or 4 balls a game, it might not matter. If he could be equal to like a Chase Edmonds, no problem. If he takes to the Shanahan running game, because the nice thing about the Shanahan running game is he doesn't have to mix it up between the tackles a lot. He can get out wide and use his quickness, use his vision, and maybe he could be a hit. Maybe he could be someone who touches the ball 250 times this year. Every week is in that 8 to 12 point PPR range because of what he's doing for this team. And one of the reasons you have to be excited about him is because of that competition. Tevin Coleman's peak has passed already, and he can't stay healthy. LaMichael Pirine's interesting. I got to mention, because I love Eric Stoner. He's a dear friend, and he watched these backs and he said, LaMichael Pirine, why isn't anybody talking about Pirine? Pirine could do it. So this is an opportunity for any of these backs to assert themselves. Ty Johnson, who had some moments last year and is the fastest in a straight line. And then don't forget Josh Adams, who's had some moments also.
He's their version of Gus Edwards. And remember the system. He could be Mike Anderson in this system, right? Remember the system, and it is the system, and the system, it's bend, banger, bounce.
Yep.
You got a guy that you get to a cutting point. There's an entry point on every play for this offense. So the running back on time gets to that entry point, and then he has 3 decisions, bend, bang, or bounce. And if you're good at making those decisions and not Devontae Booker, you can excel. So, yes, Josh Adams could have a 100-yard day in this system. That's not even a question. It's just, will he get that opportunity? Or will the other guys, Pirine, Carter, whoever, just hold on to that opportunity?
Right. And I think that the other thing that you have to like, it's tough because, again, glass half full, glass half empty. Glass half full, this offensive line, this new system. Glass half empty, they're going to be trailing in games so that they don't really get the running game on track. So it's certainly something to watch. I think that Michael Carter, especially with a certain kind of team build, you only take 1 running back in the first 5 rounds. You go minimal running back, hero running back. They always have names for these strategies now.
Right.
Carter fits. If you miss out, so it's like your rookie running back hierarchy, right? Well, Javonte Williams is going in the 4th or 5th round. Geez, don't say anything. Let's save it for the AFC West episode. And then you have Trey Sermon. Now, I obviously would endorse Sermon as a 6th or 7th round pick to see what happens. But if you miss out on him, it's snake drafts. You don't always get a chance to take the rookie running back that you want to take. Travis Etienne is in that mix. Someone's probably going to take him 5th round. If the hype starts to build, maybe earlier than that. Well, there's Michael Carter. There's your rookie running back with your unknown upside. If you need a running back, if you say, my team is perfect as long as I get one of my running backs to hit, Carter can hit.
He can hit. You can hit in your fantasy draft with a premium subscription to footballguys.com. So many projections. Sigmund doing week-long projections this year. So there you have it. You want to know who to start and who to bench and all those good things. And hey, maybe you just love the show. You want to support the show, then get that Football Guys premium subscription. Go to our website, footballguys.com. hit that orange button in the right-hand corner that says join now and join us. It is footballguys.com. Wide receivers, and a favorite of mine that is slipping bad, probably just needs to be traded. But a rookie, there's two players we can't escape from. Corey Davis, everything they've done, and Corey Davis, and he's their guy. Yep, and louder with Crowder. Yes, we're talking James Crowder. But to me, Bloom, the more interesting conversations surround Keelan Cole. Drumbeats have been very positive all the way through offseason about him. And then Elijah Moore. Corey Davis, yes. Elijah Moore, to me, is much more exciting with his skill set. Nothing against Corey Davis and the money they've paid and the role that he'll have and all these sorts of things. But if Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore become a thing, it could be a tremendous hit.
Yeah, 100 catches, right? I wanted to handle this as it's just too crowded. There's just too many unknowns. But Elijah Moore is making that impossible. See, so you have Connor Hughes from The Athletic. I think he said yesterday, here's how good Elijah Moore is. I'm going to practice saying to myself, I have to watch someone other than Elijah Moore. And I still just keep watching Elijah Moore.
That's awesome.
If that doesn't get through to you from like a human being to a human being as what Elijah Moore is doing, and he was doing it every day in the spring. Now he's doing it every day in the summer. Okay? Unknown upside, baby. I come up with whatever structural rookie quarterback, the crowded wide receivers, whatever structural limits. Elijah Moore, at least the opening chapter of his career, matches the kind of player who defies all limits. I'm not saying Elijah Moore is going to be Antonio Brown or anything like that, but he might be. He might be. If there's going to be another Antonio Brown, and remember, he's coming in, I think, with better tools than Brown had coming in. If there's a player that is going to match that kind of height, this is how the opening part of his career would go, right? Everybody watching him, including the Jets. The Jets can't even hold this in. They think they got a superstar in the second round, 9th, 10th, 11th round of your draft. Or even if by the time everybody's catching on, 8th round, 7th round. These are the kinds of players that you want to take in fantasy drafts. You've been warned. It just keeps going. And then they have a lot of interesting players. So, and then that makes everybody else fade into the background, right? Because sure, Jamison Crowder, he maybe could catch 100 balls if he stayed on the field, but not with Elijah Moore there.
Why do you need Crowder anymore? Because you have Elijah Moore.
It's true, and maybe Crowder gets dealt. Moore can also play outside, but maybe Crowder gets dealt. Remember, he did stay with that restructure. I forget what he's getting paid now, like $4 or $5 million or something like that. Somebody could use him. You know, the Titans, like somebody could use him for sure. You have Corey Davis. Corey Davis has been falling a lot in fantasy drafts. Certainly, you look at his numbers from last year and you think, why is he falling? You look at his numbers on his contract. Why is he falling? Personally, I think that Corey Davis is going to be your chess, like trading a pawn for a pawn. You know, if Tre'Davious White doesn't affect the Jets passing game, if Stephon Gilmore doesn't affect the Jets passing game, if he's healthy, if Xavier Howard doesn't affect the Jets passing game, if he's still on the Dolphins.
With Miami.
Yeah. So the point is, if I can trade Corey Davis for those guys in game planning, that I don't have to think about them because they're going to be on Corey Davis, that's a W for the Jets. And go ahead.
Well, how quickly until Elijah Moore gets that coverage?
Well, right, possibly.
It'll be about week 8, and they'll see that coverage change if it plays out like we think.
See, this is fun. We're getting on like Thursday night kind of stuff. But if Elijah Moore is that good that teams are putting that kind of coverage on him, then I think that Gilmore, Howard, White, those kinds of cornerbacks are not a good match for him. You know, these are guys that can turn and run with you in a straight line. These are guys who can reroute you. These are guys who can be a little like physical and grabby and otherwise make your life difficult. But Elijah Moore has that quickness. Elijah Moore can move all over the formation. I think that he's more of a guy that they'd have to bracket. Can you tell we're excited about Elijah Moore?
Moore, everybody.
Yeah, well, there's Keelan Cole, and Keelan Cole immediately leapfrogged Denzel Mims. Keelan Cole's going to get some snaps on the outside. So now you're to 4 wide receivers that they can use, and they can use them not necessarily interchangeably, but they can put some different looks together with them. And the guy we're not talking about, Denzel Mims, now running with the third team. At least looking good.
Just trade him. He's a good player. Just trade him. Trade Denzel Mims. It's a system thing. It's his skill set does not fit the system of the Shanahan system.
Right. Run after catch, quick hitting routes.
Right.
that's not Denzel Mims. Denzel Mims wins in the air. I forget who said it on Twitter. They said Kansas City's going to end up with Mims, aren't they?
Imagine, I was just going to bring up KC. Imagine Mims on KC.
Yeah.
He's good, people. He's good. He's just not good in New York.
And the thing is, now let's see if Mims can get some snaps, because Wilson, like you said, does like to pretend he's Patrick Mahomes. Now that could end disastrously, but if he tries to do those aspirational throws, Denzel Mims has the speed and has the game in the air.
And the my ball mentality.
To make him look good. There's not that much difference between Denzel Mims and like Cortland Sutton, right? As far as their strengths, as far as how you utilize those players, there's just not a role for a player like that in this offense. So we'll see. We're not giving up on Mims long term, but this year it's very much against him.
This Jets receiving group is very, very interesting. Even when you go past those big five that we talk about, Braxton Berrios has interest to him. Vincent Smith has a ton of speed and interest to him. So a couple of names is preseason watch list, and we're freaks. Hey, freaks, King Julian. Sorry, I love Madagascar.
I'm for some reason trying to think of like a Holy Grail Monty Python. Anyway, my brain is this is what happens when you get to 46. You start those little malfunctions. It's because I'm so excited about Braxton Berrios. I'm going to make Cecil cough up that lung yet. Braxton Berrios is a quality NFL slot receiver. He can play. He's not necessarily going to be anyone we care about for fantasy, but again, if Jamison Crowder has some trade value, then that makes it easier to let him go. Jeff Smith has done some things. Vincent Smith has done some things. They've been on an NFL field. So a lot of deep wide receiver groups in this division. Can't say the same for the Jets tight ends.
Yeah, this is where the show, I don't know, Tyler Kroft.
Yeah, right.
Tyler Kroft, anytime someone would bring up, let's say, like a Kylan Granson Bloom, which is a little preview, which we'll continue talking about. But, like, I still go back to Tyler Kroft. Like, we've seen flashes. Chris Herndon is
bye-bye.
One of those,
We'll always have his rookie year. We'll always remember the good times.
We'll always remember that potential, okay? Kenny Yeboah is interesting to me.
Sure.
Loved him down at the Senior Bowl, much more so than Hunter Long, who's John Bates, right? So I saw a bunch of Y's, and then I saw an F in Yeboah. I was like, he lands here. There's an opportunity. Okay, so some names, preseason watch list. Kroft, Yeboah, that's my vote. Bloom, let's talk about him.
Yeah, I think that Kroft is your two-way tight end. Remember, he got a $6 million a year contract, got hurt, I think, with the Bengals, and he's the starter. I really wrap it up on Herndon. It's not happening. I know that I even bought in, hey, without Gase, maybe he's the next guy to have the post-Gase bounce. No, it's not happening. Whatever, there's a story to be told. Well, there's a story to be told, as we mentioned on and off on the show. Failure is a taboo subject in the NFL. Rarely do you get folks to talk on the record about failure. Failure as a coach, failure as a player, failure as a team. So we may never know exactly the story of what happened with Herndon. Was it injuries? Was it inconsistency? Was it Gase ruined his confidence or something? All three, some other things that we don't know about. We can move on from Herndon, but that makes Yeboah interesting for your tight end premium dynasty leagues because he is basically that wide receiver / tight end. He's got that speed. And he absolutely fits, maybe not this year, but if he can stick on this roster come next year or maybe by the end of the year when the Jets are just playing out the string, looking for another top 5 pick, that's when Yeboah emerges, so file the name away.
We're about halfway through, aren't we? Half a D.
Yeah.
Okay. Right on.
Enjoy the view.
Righteous. Okay. We'll keep chugging away at these and usually, knock on wood, I'm able to get all 4 of these episodes out on Spotify and Apple Music and all that. So everyone out there, keep watching, keep listening, spread that love. Bloom, it's always good when we get into this rhythm.
It is. And it's because we get to spend time together. You and I get to spend time together.
Right.
We get to spend time in the chat room with all of our favorite people that show up when we do these lives. We get to spend time with you. If you can hear the sound of my voice right now. And I guess it's another time to say, as you mentioned, we're not to the end yet, but I feel like checking in on this vibe, on this note, that we have been doing this since 2006, and we never take for granted that you let us into your life, that you let us into your head. I'm in your head. Right now, you make us part of your life, and by doing that, you're part of our life, and it's a great privilege to get to do this. We just like talking about football. We just like the sound of our own voice, and it's it's a beautiful thing to be encouraged to do that and to somehow bring some value to your life. And we're just going to keep chopping wood so we can continue to do that.
He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. The show is at the Audible, and I'm at Cecil Lammey saying, do all those YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And yes, thank you, Sasha. Casually Comics, everybody. Just watch Casually Comics. Great, fantastic channel. Anyway, everyone out there, be back with more preseason watch list as this thing rolls on. It's the Audible. Stay tuned and stay frosty.